What is up, you guys? Welcome to my YouTube channel, Live Free with JD. We've got a very special episode for you guys today. We're here with Live Free with Mikey.
Guys.
We're gonna go through how to get started with your first rental property. You guys know we talk about real estate and passive income here, so we're gonna break it down step by step for you guys on how you can get started with your real estate journey the same way that Mike did. So Mike, it doesn't just go from no house to a house overnight. Let me hear a little bit of your background. How did you get interested in real estate to start?
So basically, since high school, I knew that college wasn't really quite my thing, and I kind of just started getting into investing a little bit, and I knew that investing was kind of the route I wanted to go, and just using my money to make more money was exactly what I wanted to do. So from there, YouTube University, you know, just YouTube, books, podcasts, Bigger Pockets, all that kind of stuff. Went from there, and then just knew real estate was my thing.
Do you have any books that you recommend to people who are trying to get in the game?
Definitely Rich Dad Poor Dad. Everyone tells you that. Definitely a good one. Fix and Flip by Bigger Pockets. Really, any of the Bigger Pockets books are really good, honestly.
Yeah, I've read a couple of those. Bigger Pockets always delivers, and Rich Dad Poor Dad, as cliche as it sounds, it's a fire book. You guys definitely have to check it out. It's gonna give you the real estate bug, and it'll get you on your journey. So, you knew you wanted to buy a house. What other things were you investing in at the time before that?
I was a huge crypto guy and stocks. I did options trading, I did crypto, I was mining crypto at the time too. I was doing all those things, and that kind of helped me save up a little bit of money to do that investing I do now. I also had a job. I worked at Wawa, if you guys know, East Coast.
Oh, everyone loves a good Wawa. We tried to go there today, but they're still building the one right here in the Poconos. Anyway, so a lot of people end up getting stuck when they're looking to make their first purchase. They get too into that YouTube University, as you called it. They spend too much time kind of waiting to pull the trigger and thinking they need to learn more. What got you over that hump that most people call analysis paralysis?
So analysis paralysis is huge, obviously, for anybody who's starting out, you know, because you're putting all your money up, you know. You're basically bankrupting yourself most of the time to get into that first one. But you really just have to run the numbers, trust the numbers, have a few friends look it over, people who are more experienced than you, and if the numbers make sense, then you just got to jump on it and take that leap of faith.
Yeah, I mean, that's the big thing is pulling the trigger when it comes time. It is super important when it is your first deal, because that deal is going to set you up for success later. At the same time, it's just your first one. It seems like a lot of cash at the time, but you've done it once, you've saved up that cash. Worst case, your deal ends up okay, and then you have a fresh start and experience to work with. But I feel like your deal went a little bit better than that, and we'll get into the numbers later. So tell me about the next process. How did you start with picking out a market? How did you know what you wanted to invest in?
Well, I've been in short-term rental space for about 1.5 years now. But this guy here, he owns a rental company, management company, and yeah, just as soon as I hopped out of high school, started with him, just worked there for 1.5 years, and that's how I knew. I wanted to do the same industry, short-term rental space. And yeah, just went from there.
And for those people out there looking for their first place, a lot of times I'd like to say that Bigger Pockets tends to push you towards either getting a house hack or going into multifamily. Everyone's all about that duplex game. What were your initial thoughts on what kind of investment you wanted? Was that kind of where you were trending? And then what about short-term rentals kind of pulled you aside?
So originally I did want to do like a duplex, triplex, quadplex, you know, the whole house hack thing where I live in one, rent the other units out. That was my whole thing. Long-term rentals was my thing. That's all I knew. That's what sounded good. Like you said, Bigger Pockets is what pushed me towards that. And it wasn't until I actually looked into short-term rentals after I started working there that I realized it's better cash flow. You have way less tenant issues. There's just way less issues you have to deal with. There are still issues, but they're smaller fires. You have to put them out more, but it's a lot more easier to work with.
Yeah, and there's definitely a lot of truth to that. It's a lot more hustle and a lot more fires, as you put it, but at the end of the day, you're getting compensated for that. And if you know how to set up the systems, if you have someone managing the place for you, you still get to keep the extra cash flow without any of the headaches. So that's why I'm a little biased towards short-term rentals, and that's what inspired me to I only really invest in short-term rentals. I started a company based around short-term rentals to handle the rentals for me. And now I try to enjoy as much passive income as I can. And I'm glad you're on that same path, Mike. That's good work. So when you were choosing a market, how did you choose a specific area to invest in?
So at first I started looking at Philly, and it's still a good market, I like it, but I started looking at Poconos, and I love the style of the houses. It's a vacation market, so you get good appreciation there. Just everything about it just really drew me in, like, instantly as soon as I saw the Poconos, and I loved it.
Poconos is certainly a place that you can fall in love with or fall in love with somebody in. That can happen. I've seen it happen out here. Now, the Poconos, because it's in our backyard, you would think we're a little biased as we were to Philly. Philly's the best place ever, I'm not gonna lie to you guys. Even if you're not from Philly, you'll come, check it out. You're gonna think that it's pretty dope. But without the bias mixed in, just to give you guys some perspective, our team of short-term rental agents actually runs market reports pretty consistently. We've done about 20 market reports in the past 6 weeks, and out of all of those markets, the Poconos has been the top market to invest in.
Every time.
We look at all types of different factors. We look at all different price ranges in different markets, and the cash on cash is best in the Poconos. Now, that's not to say that there aren't markets that you can maybe get better appreciation in. With the way that the economy is trending, maybe you're not gonna see the appreciation that you were, which makes it ever important to invest in a cash flowing asset and look for that cash on cash, which is what we see in the Poconos. So you decided you want to look in the Poconos. Tell me about your touring process. How did that go?
So I actually saw it 2 separate times before I even realized that I really wanted to buy the house. It was something about it, it kept drawing me back in, honestly. First time I saw it with you, and then I liked it, and I was like, oh, this is like super cool, because we're both agents as well. So I was like, I could definitely sell this to a client. They would love this place. It would rent out super well and easy and good. And then I saw it again 2 weeks later after it went on the market and then went off the market, and I was like, I kind of like it a little bit more. So then 2 weeks later, went on the market, went off the market, and I was like, all right, I'm buying this thing. I'm set on it. It's the one I want.
So what about that particular house made you know that was the one? We talked about how important it is to get the right first product. What about that house did it for you?
It was the style and the design of the house, as well as the purchase price. It was a 3-bedroom, 2-bath at $255, which typically in the Poconos it's about $100K a bedroom. So 3 bedrooms at $255 was super nice.
Price per bedroom is a great analytic, and I think you nailed it. Your house was already really renovated. It looked really nice. You got a really good price per bedroom given the fact of the condition it was in. That's a great way to look at it. And I think you touched on another huge point there, Mike, and I think we talked about this on the podcast the other day. If you guys haven't checked out the podcast, Live Free Podcast, we talk all about different investments. If you don't want to look at us, I know we're not the best looking, so if you just want to hear us, Live Free Podcast is where to go. We talk about some pretty big deals and cool deals we have coming up. But when you're looking for houses, this happens to me all the time. I'm not even in the market to buy something. I don't even have the cash available, but I'll be touring clients, or I'll just be going to look at things for fun. And the more stuff that you look at, you're gonna end up finding good value, because that day when we looked through and saw that house for the first time that you ended up purchasing, we probably looked at 12 houses in a 2-day span. And for you guys that are newer, it's a lot harder to decide, like, oh, $255 is a great price for that house. You would trust your agent on that, and a good agent will help you. But if you looked at 12 other things that day and this was number 1 out of 12, it makes it a lot easier to skip out of that analysis paralysis and be like, yeah, I'm going for this.
Totally, yeah. And just doing market analysis all the time, just scrolling through Zillow, scrolling through MLS, you really start to get a good eye for what's good, and you start to get really nailed down on what a house is worth, and you can know if it's listed properly for the right price.
Totally. And after you read Rich Dad Poor Dad and catch the real estate bug, I think it'll be easy for you guys to skip out on that late night TikTok scrolling, or skip that last episode of Netflix and spend that extra half hour scrolling on Zillow, peeking through properties, and eventually you're gonna find one that just takes your heart. So Mike found one that took his heart. All right, you were back and forth on it, you finally plunged in, it came back on the market, How did you go about the offer process? What was it like in terms of blending to get ready? Tell me about the steps you had to take to get to actually having that property.
So for me, it was actually a little bit more difficult because I don't have W-2 income. I'm an agent, so I only make commissions, and this is my first year, so none of that is good income on paper. So I was actually able to utilize my dad's income because he does have a W-2 job, so I was able to partner with him 50-50, 50 cash, and 50 equity as well. And it works super well, honestly.
Yeah, that's totally a way to do it. For you guys who think you're out of the game just because you don't have the right income to qualify, or you're just not ready to get a loan in your mind, well, maybe there's other ways around it. And a lot of times what we see is people will partner up with somebody who either has the cash to put down because you have the income but just don't have the cash saved up, or you found the right place, you're motivated to do the work, and you just need someone who can qualify for the loan, and you can take care of the rest. So there's a lot of different ways you can partner to get started. And what's really important, if you're gonna partner with someone and either use their income to qualify and have them sign on to a mortgage like that, or if you're gonna take someone's cash to go into a deal, it's super important that you do your homework on the back end and do the due diligence so that when you make that investment, you're gonna be able to get their money back, and it's gonna be worth it for both of you guys. So now we're at the point that you got through, your dad helped you qualify for the loan, and now you guys are set. You guys put up the cash together, which is awesome. What else did you have to do in the process before you closed?
Just income verification, all that sort of stuff. I just started looking for furniture because it wasn't fully furnished at all. It had like no furniture in there. It was pretty much just bare bones in terms of that sort of stuff. I had to get decorations, furniture, all the kitchen stuff, all that ton of stuff.
So you said it was a $255,000 purchase price. How much money did you end up having to put up for this house?
So the asking price is $255,000, but I actually got it at $246,500 with a little bit of negotiations, slid it in there. All in all, it was about $40,000. That's including furniture. Furniture was about $8,000. Closing costs were about $11,000, and the down payment was about $12,500. So with all that included, it was only a 5% down payment. So I think it was a pretty good deal.
Yeah, I mean, the cash on cash is going to be super heavy. Once we get into the numbers, everyone's gonna see that, and we're saving the best for last. Sorry guys, the numbers come last. You're gonna have to stick through it. Maybe hit the subscribe button while you're at it. Like the video if you like Mike. Not even me. Don't do it for me. Do it for Mike. But it sounds like you put a decent amount of cash into this deal. It should return some good cash on cash, and we'll get into that. What else, were there any regrets you had in going through the process? Anything you wish you would have done?
Nothing really, honestly. It was a pretty smooth process.
How'd the home inspection go?
Pretty good, actually. It didn't really return anything bad. Little slight problem with the driveway with some drainage, but other than that, it came back super clean. I was super happy about it, honestly.
And there was another key piece to the process that I found really interesting, especially with how competitive the Poconos market was. Even at that time, everything was going for 20, 25K over ask.
Still does.
Still does. It's still pretty hot out here. Now, the appraisal piece. We did have some fun with the appraisal. As you said, you got the purchase price at $246,500. I think, if I remember right, when we were working on this, the original was $250,000.
So yes, it was $250,000 originally, but some of you might know a house has to appraise at the value that it's asking for, right? So if it doesn't, you have to bring that extra little piece to closing. So my problem was it didn't appraise for $250,000. It appraised for, do you remember what it was?
It appraised for $242,000. $242,500. So the bank is only going to give you guys money up to what the house is worth. So the appraiser comes out, tells you what the house is worth based on what things are selling around. Now, I think that's kind of bogus a lot of times, because 95% of the time they just make the appraisal exactly what the purchase price is, so you qualify and everything's smooth. Now every now and then you get an appraiser who is super sick and good at their job, and they'll actually look at everything, and those times the appraisal usually comes back higher because they see that a lot of things are selling higher. They do you good justice and they make the appraisal higher, which doesn't really help you, but you still get to close on loan smooth. Mike, on the other hand, got a little unlucky. He got an appraiser you know, one of those guys who was probably the kid on the bus who wore the little badge and told you had to sit in your seat, or one of those hall monitor kids. So he got one of those guys who was a little power abusive. The guy came back at 242.5, which a lot of times could end up killing the deal. Most of the times when it's that close, you're gonna end up negotiating, which Mike did, but other times, especially in a hot market, the seller might be like, kick rocks. I had another deal around that same time where the appraisal came back at maybe 220 and the house was 250. And we tried to be like, hey, look, we'll negotiate. We might meet you in the middle. And they're like, no, we're not moving at all. If you want it, you bring the extra, with that difference, 220 to 250, you bring the extra 30K in cash, which for my investor, that's gonna kill the deal. We're not bringing an extra 30K in cash to the deal.
On top of the closing costs and the down payment and the furniture and everything else involved. It's wild.
Exactly, so if you're bringing double the cash to the deal, you're basically making half the cash on cash. It'll take you twice as long to get your money back, and we wanna look forward to the next one, so let's get our cash back quick. So Mike, yours came back a little low, and how did they react?
They were not very happy with me asking them to come down a little bit, but they finally did. We agreed on the price, $246.5, and everything was okay, except I still had to bring that extra $6,000 to closing, so I wasn't very happy, but I made it work in the end.
And it happens, and if it's the right deal, if the numbers still work, you go for it. If the numbers don't work, like it did for my other buyer who would have to bring 30K, then you just back out and you move and you get your deposit back. And the reason you get your deposit back is when you write an offer, you can put a financing contingency in, which means if the bank's not gonna give you a loan, you don't have to close on the house because you couldn't possibly get it. And the bank wasn't gonna give him the loan at the price they agreed on. So he walked away. And he had that option. And Mike had the option on his, but it was just a little bit more cash and the numbers still worked for him, so he proceeded with it. So you got the place all up and running and furnished. What is it looking like now? You had a couple months under your belt. Tell us about the status of this thing.
It's super great. I love it. Everyone raves about the huge couch in my living room. Everyone loves it. I got a big TV on the wall. It's got 2 bedrooms upstairs. It's got 1 bedroom downstairs. Nice big backyard with a fire pit, some chairs. It's super nice.
Yeah, you crushed the design aspect of it. It's super important not to skimp out on big items. We talked about that on the podcast recently, especially big ticket items like a couch. Like if you guys think this couch is kind of deep, his couch is just as deep, but it sinks in a little bit more. If I had to pick a place to sleep in that house, it would super be on the couch. So Mike dominated the interior design. How has it been renting for you, Mike?
Super good. It's just about $200 a night on weekdays, and then it can go anywhere up to like $230 to $250 on weekends, depending. It was just 4th of July, so I got a nice 2-day resi for about $1,000, which was super nice.
2 days for $1,000. What is your mortgage on this place?
$1,500 a month.
So in 2 days, you got almost 70% of your mortgage covered, which means if you got another 2 days like that, your whole mortgage is covered.
Easily, yeah. And then you have all the other days of the month to make profit.
So everything else is profit, and that's the huge thing with short-term rentals. A lot of people get a little scared if you say, oh, well, the house gets occupied 50% of the time. Why would you not long-term rent and have it occupied 100%? If that 50% is creating 5 times the revenue, then you're still ending up 2.5 times as good as what you would have been with long-term without even having the house being stayed in and lived in and potentially tarnished for the rest of those days. So you get a lot less wear and tear. You have cleaners going through all the time. Short-term rentals just make sense. So first month you did pretty well. You got some good reservations in, and we just stopped in there earlier today to do a little key handoff. Tell us about the lease that you just got.
So it was interesting. So my sister had been doing some advertising for us for the short-term rental, but somebody hit her up on there and asked, hey, we work real close at the water park nearby. Can we rent it for a whole year? So in my head, I'm like, okay, well, I could probably make more on short-term rental, but there's also the key where I'm gonna definitely get paid X amount of money per month. It was $37.50 a month. After everything, before the mortgage and before some of the other, I pay utilities, things like that. But it on paper it looked like a great deal, honestly, and it was pretty like confirmed income each month, so I went with it.
Yeah, and I think you made the right choice, because when we underwrote, I think your numbers came back. The numbers worked at maybe $3,300 to $3,500 a month in net cash. which was still great cash on cash over your $1,500 mortgage and utilities. So let's say you were looking for $3,500 mortgage and utilities, you factored at $2,000 total. You were at $1,500 a month cash flow, which is pretty sick. You're getting your money back in about 2 years. Not many places you can do that. But you were able to lock in a long-term lease at $3,750. So now it's looking like you're gonna make about $1,700 over all your expenses per month, locked in. You got a good group of people, and I think you hit something super key, and this is one reason that Mike was able to secure this lease. There was some advertising going on. He was posting it in different Facebook groups. He had it in a bunch of different places, a couple Instagram ads, I believe. So he was kind of all over the map with some really cheap and sweat tactics to get in there and get some more eyeballs on this thing, and he was able to secure a really sick lease. What are you gonna do with all that money, Mike?
Save it up for the next one.
The next one, and that's where I want to leave this video off. So Mike's now got his first rental under his belt. It's going to be cash flowing $1,700 a month. Mike, what's your plans for your next house?
Probably something in the Poconos again, maybe a little smaller to try to hit that couples market is what I'm thinking.
Yeah, we have seen the smaller units, the studio 1, 2-bedroom units, somewhere that a couple can just book real quick last second and have a nice getaway. You can get these places a lot cheaper and the occupancy is a lot higher, so you end up with a really good deal. You already got a good deal on your first one, and now you have some more experience going into your next one. Poconos sounds like the market it's gonna be in, and I love where your head's at. Just save up and hit the next one, which you should be able to do after this lease. Pretty much you're gonna have a good amount of cash saved up to roll right into another house. That's great work, Mike. Anything else you wanna give to the audience today about how to get started with their first rental? Anything you think they need to know?
Just the biggest thing is pick a good agent that knows what they're talking about.
Having the right help is gonna really get you there, and the only thing I wanna add in is pull the trigger. You can sit there and run numbers for, I had one client one time who never ended up buying anything. We looked at 1 million houses. He ran numbers on probably 100 different properties. There were some that worked, and he was just so stuck on these numbers as a long-term guy looking for $400 a month in cash flow. And if it came back at 425 in the underwriting, he's like, oh, I'm gonna wait. I still don't know after 3 years if this guy's ever bought anything. I don't think so. But I'm really proud of you, Mike, for pulling the trigger, and you guys out there, just pull the trigger, get started, trust your numbers, and you will be on to the next one before you know it, and start to build up that portfolio and start to be able to live free. So that's it. That's all I have for you guys. Remember to subscribe to the channel. If you want, go check out Mike's channel. I highly recommend it. Live Free with Mikey. It's got a nice YouTube out there. And make sure you guys take the advice in this video and get started. That's all. We're tuning out. Live free.
Live free.